Hello. The topic of today's training video is the CounterPath Partner Portal. The topics I'm going to be covering off is logging in for the first time, adding additional administrators, locating documentation and training material, as well as any technical support questions you may have, adding a new reseller, setting up automated email notifications, adding a new enterprise, ordering soft phones, deleting soft phones, running transaction reports, and then modifying email templates. So there's quite an agenda, and let's get started. So the first thing that's going to happen is you'll receive an email. I've made up this fictitious distributor called Fruit Distributing, and this is the welcome email that I've received, and it's telling me to log into CounterPath Partner Portal. Please reset your password with the link below. So you simply need to click on that. It tells you what your username is. In this case, it's admin fruit. And then provide some other instructions. Okay, so I'm just going to log in. It's asking me for a new password. We are quite strict when it comes to what the password has to look like. Let's see if it works. Reset password. Okay, so I've now reset my password. It's telling me where to click to log in. So admin fruit is the name of the admin. And I'll put the password. Okay, and now I've logged in. Okay, so the first thing you notice is I've logged in as Fruit Distribution, so that's the name of the company that I work for. On the Home tab, what you'll see is the pricing. Now this is it's basically a menu of products that this distributor is able to sell. So in this case, there's 5 different products that can be sold. You could sell a desktop or a mobile client, that is a per device license, and the pricing is just invented pricing, I would say. And then we have some per user licenses as well. And these are the ones that we typically recommend. So we've got a basic bundle, we've got a business bundle, and then we've got a Salesforce user. And at some point in the next few months, we'll also have a collaboration bundle. Okay, this pricing is what the distributor pays to CounterPath. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the Support tab. Okay, the Support tab provides links to the software downloads. So Stretto is supported on 4 different platforms, so Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. For the iOS and Android, you can just go to the Apple and Google stores, respectively. But for Stretto for Windows, it's a download link to a CounterPath site. So if you just click on that, for example, it will take you to the software, and then you can load it onto your desktop. Documentation. So this is more than just documentation. It includes some videos, including this video. This is the Partner Portal training video. Also, there's a number of key documents. So the one I'd recommend looking at right away is the Partner Portal Admin Guide. So that's complementary to this particular video. So you click on that, and it's a web-based document. So for example, if you want to know how to order soft phone licenses, you click on that, and it sort of walks you through all the steps that you need to follow. So that's a really important reference for you. And the last thing here is if you want to search the knowledge base, so this links you into our CounterPath support, we call it KB, knowledge base. Let's say Apple CarPlay as an example. I want to find information on that. I just click on search, and it opens up another web tab, and you can see it comes up with an article on using CarPlay with the Bria iPhone. Okay, so that's a useful search utility that you can use. Okay, so I'll close that off. One of the first things you're going to want to do when you log in for the first time is to go to the Settings tab. So you click here. This allows you to edit some of the attributes of your group. So for example, if you want to change the company name to, let's say, I'll say Fruit Distributors. So this changes the name that's displayed within the Partner Portal. You can scroll down a little further if you want to change the email address that Stretto uses. You can do that here. But most importantly, if you want to set up the automated emails for the entire distributor, you would do it right here. So for example, as I explained earlier, if you want to set up emails to be sent every time there's an order, or a renewal, or even a monthly or a weekly or a quarterly transaction report, this is where you would do it. Okay, and I'll just click Save, and we're done. The next thing you may want to do, once you've logged in for the first time, is set up additional administrators for your customer group, that is for the distributor. So I go under here, you can see admin fruit, that's what I've logged in as. Typically, we recommend that you actually use a person's name rather than something general like admin fruit. That way, you can trace exactly which admin did what. Okay, so I'm going to add an administrator. Typically, you want to add a few different administrators. Let's say you had somebody from the finance department. So let's say you had, I'll say finance fruit. This has to be a unique name across our system. So I'll just go finance@fruit.com. So if you choose a generic name like admin, that's a very bad idea because chances are it's going to clash with something else and you won't be able to actually add that. So I'll just go finance and fruit. Okay. Okay, so what pops up here is a welcome email. So I'll talk more about this, the template itself. You can change this to whatever you want it to be. So you can change the template that's inherited, or you can just make changes on the fly. So I'll just I'll say, hello, David, if I know it's going to David in our finance department. And you can also change, let's see, the subject if you want to. Okay, so in this case, if I send this, what's going to happen is this email address is going to receive the credentials to log into the CounterPath Partner Portal, just like you've just done. Okay, I'm actually not going to send it, but this is the important thing. So you get to set the permissions for each administrator within your group. They can have the same permissions that you have, which represents all these boxes, or in some cases you may just want to provide people with individuals with, say, read-only access. So maybe you don't want them to be able to create new customer groups, or to manage admins, or to place orders for soft phones, or to change the email templates. Maybe you just want them to be able to view reports, or maybe you want them to view reports and partners and view soft phones. That's typically what I would do. And maybe you don't want them. In some cases, you may have enterprises that you sell to directly, but in most cases, let's assume there's going to be a reseller underneath you. So what I'm going to do is set up that reseller, and then once we've done that, I'm going to set up a new enterprise, and then we're going to actually order some soft phones for that enterprise. We're a fruit distribution, so I'm going to add a company as a reseller, so it tells me I don't have any child partners, which is what I expect. So I'm going to add a partner, and I'm going to call this company Apple Resellers. Okay, so the type, I choose reseller. So a reseller is someone that actually sells through to enterprises, and the enterprises are the companies that actually purchase the soft phones. So a reseller doesn't purchase them themselves, and that's the key difference. Okay, so the group name, this is what appears in Stretto. We always use lowercase, so I'm going to use Apple Reseller. Okay, and an admin. So even if you're not planning on allowing this particular reseller to log in directly to Stretto, Stretto requires that you provide a unique email and a unique admin name. So I'm just going to go admin Apple, okay, and email, I'll just go admin at applereseller.com, okay. Client type, so this really dictates what is shown on the product menu. So if you want to show both per device as well as per user licenses, so per device being per mobile, per desktop, per user being the bundles for basic, business, and Salesforce. This is where you decide that. So I'm going to go with both just to give the maximum number of options. Automated emails. So let's say, for example, I wanted to, as a distributor, I want to have an email sent every time an order is placed for this particular reseller. I would put that in here. So let's say I'll put in sales at apple.com as an example. So what this does is it automatically sends an email as you approach the annual renewal date for a given enterprise. So in this case, let's say 45 days. Okay, that'll give lots of notice. So the reseller would receive a notice saying that in 45 days, one of their enterprise customers is about to renew. And the renewals are automatically handled. Okay, and then transaction reports, we don't recommend that you actually give these out to the resellers underneath you. The transaction reports do provide or contains sensitive cost information. So it basically shows how much the distributor is paying CounterPath for the product. So you probably don't want to share that with the reseller. Okay, and now I'll just click on Add. Okay, so what's happening here is the partner portal is using the API with Stretto, and it's setting things up in Stretto. So and now it's jumped back to the menu, but this time you can see I'm at the Apple resellers level. So I'm no longer at fruit distribution, it's moved me down. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is add a child partner underneath Apple resellers. So I'm going to add in our first enterprise. Okay, so I click on Add Partner. So let's go with something like, this we could go with Macintosh. How's that for Macintosh? This in Tosh Enterprises. Okay. And this time the type is enterprise because they're actually going to be purchasing and consuming. That is, their employees are going to be using soft phones. The group name in Stretto, this is important that you get this right. The group name needs to be the domain name of the company, because every user within this company is going to log in as, in my case, Bruce at Macintosh.com. So put it in lowercase and make sure it's got the .com or .co.uk or whatever it happens to be. Once again, we need to create a unique admin name, even if you don't plan to give out the administrative credentials to this particular enterprise. So I'll just go admin, when I go admin Macintosh. Okay. I need to put an email address, so it has to be unique, so I'll go admin@macintosh.com. Okay. And then client type here, you have to pick one or the other. Because this is an enterprise, you cannot mix and match user and device licenses. So we typically recommend that enterprise customers use the user licenses. So that's what I'm going to put in there. Automated emails, I'll leave that out. I've already completed that at the reseller layer. So I'll just hit add. So that's happening. Okay, and now you can see in the hierarchy, I'm now at Macintosh Enterprises. So we started off at the distributor level, we went down to the reseller, and now we're at the enterprise level. Okay, so the menu is now just has 3 items because we chose per user rather than per device. And now I'm going to start ordering some soft phones. So the first thing is to click here, ordering soft phones. Okay, it tells me I don't have a subscription for this particular enterprise, which is what I expect. Okay, the order ID is really for the distributor to use if they want to put a purchase order number or some sort of invoice number that gets included in the transaction records that we maintain. So every 3 months, CounterPath will send an invoice at the end of the calendar quarter to the distributor. And if you wanted, as a way of sort of correlating our transactions with your own records, that's how you do it. So I'll just put in, I can put in fruit 0001 as an example. Okay, and let's say we're going to order 40 business bundle users and, basic users and 20 licenses for the business bundle, and let's say we're going to order, let's say 10 Salesforce users. Okay, I click add. It's asking me to confirm, which I've just now done. Okay, and it's now setting up those licenses. So it's basically delivering them immediately into Stretto, and it's now done. So those licenses are now active. So that was really, really quick. And this is just telling you subscription was activated on today's date, and it will renew in a year's time. So the thing to note here is that each enterprise will have its own distinct annual renewal date. So for example, if I were to purchase additional licenses, let's say in 6 months' time, the renewal date would still be November 23rd, 2018, but the actual charge would be 50% of the full amount. I'll explain more about that later. Okay, and here's a quick summary of what I just purchased. So 40 of the basic, 20 of the business, and 10 of the Salesforce. Okay, so the next thing to note is that if you go into the provisioning view, you click on this, it automatically logs you into Stretto. Okay, and it takes you in at the Macintosh level. And what you can see there, if you look under device limits, is that the limits have been set up. So you've got 40, 20, 10, as you would have expected. Okay, so I'm going to log out of that. Okay, the other thing to notice is if at some point during the year, Macintosh Enterprise wants to reduce the number of licenses they have. They can do that through the distributor can do it on the enterprise's behalf by just deleting clients. So let's say instead of 40, I want to go down by 10 to 30, so I just click delete and ask me if I want to do that. And immediately you'll see what happens. Basically updates the total to 30. And so if you delete clients, you don't actually get a refund, but what it means is when the next billing cycle starts on the anniversary date, you will not be charged for those extra 10 licenses. The next thing to demonstrate is the report function. So if you go to the Reports tab, and keep in mind I'm at the Macintosh Enterprise level, so I just click on Reports. And I can then run a report for any date range that I want. So by default, it goes back a month. So from October 23rd to November 23rd. So I'm just going to run this report. Okay, and it immediately comes up and asks me where I want to store the file. So I'm just going to do that. By default, it takes the name of the enterprise, so Macintosh Enterprises. Okay, and I'm just going to open it up. It's a CSV file. Okay, so you'll need to straighten out the columns. So I'll just do that right now. So you can see the partner name, in this case Macintosh, the order ID, so that was the distributor's order ID, which could be a purchase order number or invoice number, the product that was purchased, so I'll just extend that out so you can see Salesforce, the business bundle, and the basic bundle. You can see the quantities that were ordered. You can see the recurring price, so that's really the standard price. And then the prorated price, I alluded to that earlier, is in this case, it's exactly the same because we purchased on the sort of first day of the year, if you will. But if I had purchased this halfway through, the prorated price would have been $100 and $37.50 and $17.50 for the basic bundle user. Okay, total. I don't think we can just hide that if you don't want to look at that. The renewal date, so it just shows you the date which it renews, so that's a year from now. How many days are left, so 365. The memo ID just provides some additional detail, if you will. It basically shows that for each of these bundles, you went from 0 to whatever quantity was ordered, and then it actually puts today's date. Okay, I recommend that you actually save that, so it'll ask me to want to save it. You can do that. You should probably save it as an Excel file rather than a CSV file in order to preserve the formatting. Okay, and then the last thing to mention with respect to reports is you can run it for an individual enterprise, but you can also, as the distributor, I can run it for Apple resellers, so I can see all the transactions that were placed through them. Or if I want to see it right at the top level, I can look for a particular date range for the distributor, and I can see all of the transactions that occurred across all of the subtending customers. Okay, and the final thing is the email templates. So I spoke about that earlier. So all this means is that you can customize the template however you want. You always have the ability to make changes sort of on the fly, but if there are things that you want to change for all emails that get sent out, then this is the place to do it. So for example, let's say the welcome straight in, you could actually have the from name if you wanted to whatever you want. In this case, I'll call it fruit distribution support. The from email could be the same. I could say fruit.com, and you can even change the body of the email to say whatever you want to put in there. Okay, and then the last thing you do is save it. Okay, so just to quickly go over this, so we've logged in, we added additional administrators with different privileges. We know to go to the support tab for documentation and training. We added a new reseller. In this case, it was Apple reseller. We set up some automated email notifications, so we were getting 45 days notice. We added new enterprise. We ordered some soft phones. We then deleted some of them. We ran the transaction reports, which you can do at all levels, and then we modified the email templates. So hopefully this is helpful, and best of luck. Thank you.